Hello and welcome back to another episode of Conquering My Collection, and I do tend to focus these videos around films in my collection that I haven't seen yet, and this is a film that I've seen before, but it's a film that I haven't... I've talked about this before. I've done I think I did the Gremlins 4K and the Home Alone 4K and the Beetlejuice 4K. We've done this before, we've had this conversation, but it's a new thing that's come into my collection. I've watched it and I've gained a new experience and a new viewing of a film that I've loved for a very long time. Battle Royale from 2000, 21 years ago. In America, Battle Royale be now old enough to drink, but the 4K version in the new Arrow Video box set is what we're talking about. So the 4K Ultra HD, I think there's HDR in the transfer. I'm not entirely sure, nor do I really care, but I have become a fan of 4K. It's been slowly building. It was a rough and rocky start last year when our first TV would not really compute HDR, which kind of threw the whole thing off whack. But now I can just put in a 4K and relax and just watch the film, not worry about the picture, because it looks pretty fucking great every time. But I am very selective, and when it comes to something that is shot on film, like Battle Royale, or most of the 4Ks that I do buy, I know that I'm going to be getting a legitimate 4K transfer, not a 2K finished upscale like a lot of the more modern movies. And so when a film like Battle Royale comes out in 4K with Arrow Video, with this nice lavish box set, it perked my ears up, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. I definitely have to get this. I pre-ordered it and I thought, well, it's a bit pricey. I'll see what happens. Time rolled around very quickly and I was like, I'm keeping that pre-order. and I love the set. I've done a previous video on it, a mail day video, if you want to see me kind of dig a little bit through the box set and talk about it. But we're just talking about the 4K version of the film and just revisiting the film itself. A film that I've never really reviewed. And I thought that I had. And before filming this video, I went back to my original OG 24-hour movie marathon from 2012. Because I watched Battle Royale. That was the last time I watched it, and it was on the Blu-ray set that I bought in 2012, the original Arrow Video release. I think they might have released it before, I don't know, but it's one of the older ones. I know they've released it quite a few times. This thing has been a steelbook, a bigger deluxe box set, but this is the one that the last time I watched it was on this set. And I watched the special edition version. This time I went with purely the theatrical cut. Because for me it's like, if it's a film I haven't seen in a long time or I've never seen before, theatrical, then we move on from there and can jump off to a special edition version if I feel like it. So that was for me the best way to dive into the 4K experience. So the last time I watched it was 9 years ago, and funnily enough, I was logging the 4K viewing in my Letterboxd account, and I turned to Connie and I said, look at that, I've logged Battle Royale on my Letterboxd account 2 times. And they're both on the exact same day, 9 years apart, the 26th of April 2012 and the 26th of April 2021. Weird coincidental timing. I didn't plan that. If I saw it was coming up, I'd probably make sure that it happened, because I'm kind of a nerd about little stats like that, but it was just like, oh, that's a cool, fun, random coincidence. But almost 10 years since I last saw it, and it's a special film for me because it's a formative film in my movie-loving life, and it goes back to, I guess, probably sometime in the early 2000s when this film was shown on TV, and I believe, I can't really think of anything else that would take that spot. I believe that Battle Royale was the first foreign film I ever saw. Now I'm talking sitting down and watching a subtitled film from start to finish. I may have seen bits and pieces of other things over the years. I suppose you can kind of count maybe a Bruce Lee movie, but I would watch the English dub. So this is like the first, when I was a kid, my dad would show me some of the Bruce Lee movies, but I can't think of anything else. As a teenager, there was a buzz around Battle Royale. It was this extreme movie about school kids killing each other. It was one of those things where it was almost like the Blair Witch Project. Like, people are so scary / extreme / banned or whatever. And it gets this kind of controversy brewing and stuff. And it was shown on TV, and that's when I saw it. And I just, it might have been film 4. It might be completely wrong, but I feel like that's probably, I don't think it would have been shown on BBC One or ITV or anything. Perhaps Channel 4. But then again, who knows? I mean, they would show stuff like Clockwork Orange on BBC One, and I remember being encouraged to watch that when I was 14, 15 years old in high school with media studies. Anyway, Battle Royale. It was a film I'd heard about, heard the concept. A group of kids get thrown on an island. They have to kill each other until there's one person left. Very exciting stuff as a teenager to hear a story of a film like that, because you don't see that stuff. It's a fairly violent kind of, concept. So I watched it on TV, and I think like most people who might have heard of it a lot before they actually saw it, it was nowhere near as extreme as I was expecting, but it's still pretty brutal. And I just remember really loving the concept. And it's one of those things, Battle Royale, where there's this kind of vicarious excitement about it, because I think that people, or some people perhaps, I get this. There's this kind of inner thing of like wondering, what would I do if I had to fight for my life and I had to defend myself and I had to kill other people to survive? Would I be able to do it? Would I be competent at it? Would I be good at it? You know, these are the questions that start spinning around in your head when you watch a film like this. And I think that's probably why the Hunger Games series, at least the movies, were so successful, because they took this kind of extreme idea and then put it through the kind of young adult kind of story sphere, where it very naturally picked up where Twilight had left off, and you got the teenage fan base, you get the romance element and stuff. And the Hunger Games is so different to Battle Royale in terms of, well, I think the tone is probably similar at times, but there's still differing tones, and the story itself, while again taking place in a future kind of dystopia, I think Battle Royale is it's a completely different beast. I mean, they're both very different, and there was a lot of comparisons, and and you can even look at Battle Royale and say, well, it's similar to the Running Man and so on. There's all these different things that you can kind of go back and say, well, it's similar to this. But I think Battle Royale and Hunger Games are very, very similar. But I think with Hunger Games, it's more palatable, and I love those films, I really do. But there's something about this one that is it's kind of wholly different, and it just would be based on the fact this is a Japanese film, different culture, different way of telling stories. And I was surprised when revisiting this film about how funny it was, at least in the first act. There's a lot of like dark humor in the first act of this film, especially the classroom scene when the kids all get brought in and they're told, you're doing this Battle Royale, what would you even call it? Tournament, game, event, And what I liked about the Hunger Games was that it took that idea and then made it like, now it's like this global thing where people are watching. It's like entertainment for these people. And that made it almost even more twisted than Battle Royale, I think. But I would say that it kind of leans into the violence a lot more in Battle Royale, and almost doesn't take itself too seriously either, but still has a few moments of poignance as well. So it's kind of this weird film that really shouldn't work, but it really does. Anyway, I was going way off track there. So the last time I watched the film was in 2012, my 24-hour movie marathon, the very first one. I've now done 10 of them, which is crazy, but I went back to watch what I said about it. I thought, I wonder what my review was like. There was no review. I didn't even talk about it. I just said, okay, next Battle Royale. And then it just moved to the next clip. And I didn't say anything about the film. Oh, I must have done an episode of the Epic Film Challenge. That was my original long-running series. So I probably should have checked that out to see what I thought of the film. Anyway, either way. So for me, it was like as a teenager, I loved it. And I think there is this kind of, it's almost like paintball. And I've never done it, but I feel like the excitement of paintball is like, what would I be like in a combat situation? Could I fire at someone and not get hit? I don't know. I feel like there is this kind of primal thing within us where it's like, what would I do in that situation kind of thing. With Battle Royale, it's kind of fun when it really shouldn't be. If you read Battle Royale as a very serious, gritty drama, it's fucking horrifying and it's disgusting. The thought of this actually happening is, abhorrent. It's terrible, but the film doesn't really present itself in that kind of way. Even though it treats certain things seriously, it is really an entertainment movie. Does it make you think about certain things? I mean, maybe yes and no. I think that there's a few themes maybe running through that in terms of the government and control and things like that. But also, it goes back to like Lord of the Flies and things. There's a lot of things at play in that story, but I think at its core, the film is really just an entertaining film. It's just meant to, again, shock the audience, to keep them guessing, wondering who's going to survive, who's going to die next, how are they going to die, who's going to step up to the plate, who is going to really lean into this thing. How are these kids going to react? Are they going to be scared? Are they going to kind of enjoy the violence? And there's a lot of different characters who deal with this predicament where this whole class has been dumped on this island for 3 days, collars around their necks, and they can't go in certain zones at certain times of the day, otherwise the collars will explode. All these rules, and it's like a very dangerous situation. And one thing I did want to mention, I'll just get out of the way now. It's so interesting to me that the whole Battle Royale term has become something. It's grown so far beyond what the movie and the original novel were, and it's now become this hugely monetizable, bankable product for video game companies, where you have these video games that are based on that concept of, you put 100 players in a virtual video game space on an island, and they've all got to kill each other until there's one person left. And you have Fortnite, which is one of the most dominant kind of forces in the entertainment industry right now. There's so much money behind that machine. And I am a part of that. I'm a very tiny cog of that machine because I play Fortnite all the time. And I think it goes back to my enjoyment of that original film, and there's an excitement to it. I land on what can I find, what can I build, what can I kind of scavenge, what strategy can I use, and like every single game is different. Every single game you can do different things, and hide here or attack there, and it's fun. It is just fun, and there's no other way to explain it. And it really does dig into this primal thing of what would I do in that situation. And with the video games, you can play that out a little bit. And I almost wonder, like, would it be... It wouldn't be safe, but what if there was a version of paintball, but a battle royale kind of arena, where you literally put real people on an island for like 3 days with paintballs or kind of weapons where you could tag people, and technology where it could kind of register whether they die or not from that kind of shot. And it would be, I think, tremendously fun, but a health and safety nightmare. So it definitely wouldn't work, but I would find that kind of exciting. It's just one of those things. Anyway, the film itself, it's very overdramatic. There's certain slow motion sequences in there, and the kids are going for it. Those actors, they're really going for it, and I give them all the credit in the world. And it really goes to that point that I tend to bring up every now and again when I'm talking about foreign films, and that's how can you tell a really good performance in a language you do not understand in the slightest. I really can't tell if the kids in Battle Royale are just like painfully overacting or whether they're really convincing, But for me, because I can't understand the language and I'm kind of in the movie anyway, its reading is really, really well done, But I couldn't tell you. So if anyone is Japanese and has seen the film and has thoughts on that, I'd love to hear it, what you would think about the acting, or even if you just understand Japanese, you don't have to be Japanese yourself. Because that's something that, oh, my voice, where's that going? I'll leave that in for free. Because that's something that I've always wondered and I've talked about a lot on the channel, is the whole, can you really tell great acting? And a lot of times you can in really subtle acting, but the kind of the performances in Battle Royale, for the most part, are not very subtle. Now, I will say that Takeshi Kitano, who plays the teacher of the class and kind of the overlord, I don't know how that really works. Is it like they randomly select the class to go into this Battle Royale island, and the teacher of the class automatically has to become the ruler of the kind of the MC of the, and all the teachers fine with that? Is it like, yeah, I'm going to get to see all my kind of my school class, not my classmates, my pupils. That's the word I was looking for that randomly escaped my brain for a few moments. Are they going, oh yeah, this would be cool to see my pupils kill each other? I don't know whether like there's a circumstance, and I think about these things, the minutiae and stuff, but either way, he certainly kind of had been jaded, and you get that kind of flashback sequence where one of his students, students is another term, pupils, slashes his leg with a knife. So it's built in now that that he has a kind of vendetta against the kids, and it feels more natural of a move to him to be in that kind of sadistic. I mean, he kills one of them right at the beginning. I mean, it's very... And it might just be a sign of the dystopia that we're living in this when the film starts, and how things are kind of different than they are in our reality, especially 20 odd years ago. But Kitano, great performance. There's subtlety there because he is so calm and cool and collected with what he does, but there's intent behind things that he does, and there's a lot of humor in that performance. When he shows the kids the instructional video, hilarious. It's horrible, but it's hilarious. And so it was so much fun to come back to this. And then when it kicks off and you get the kind of updates on screen, like who dies and how many people are left and what time of day it is. You've got 3 days to finish this whole thing. And there's a lot of day for night stuff in the film, which actually looks pretty good. For me with 4K and HDR, the first thing I found was that dark scenes were kind of really tricky, but now that we have a much better TV, I thought that the darker scenes looked really good. And I read somewhere online someone saying that they felt the day for night looked a lot better in 4K HDR than it did in the original Blu-ray, which makes sense because, in theory, the HDR and the kind of color range that you get with 4K is capable of kind of, deeper blacks and stuff to make that kind of day for night stuff seem a little bit more convincing. our main character, essentially Shuya Nanahara, and his kind of, will they, won't they, little partnership with the girl Nariko. I'm not sure if it's really established there's kind of a romance there. There was a previous romance, but I'll give the film this one piece of, high praise and credit, I think. You have so many kids, and I hadn't seen the sequel, Battle Royale 2 Requiem. And once I got this box set, I watched the first film in 4K, and then the following night I watched the sequel. One criticism I'd have of the sequel is I just did not really connect to hardly any of the characters in the film and their relationships with each other. In this film, Battle Royale, there's just this inherent sense of where these kids are with each other, even from the very beginning on the bus. I think it's Shuya and his friend. This is an interaction that lasts for seconds, but when his friend dies in the classroom, you feel that there was a connection between them. There was a bond. I don't know what I don't know if it's the acting, if it's just the way that they're shooting. I don't know what it is. There's just something intangible where I feel the relationships. It's well done. And you understand where the characters are coming from. One thing I'll say is there's a girl. I've forgotten her character's name, and she revels in this. She's sadistic, and she's a real, piece of shit in the movie, and she really is just a nasty piece of work. And in the special edition version, I believe, there's a flashback of her character that kind of shows you why she's a bit fucked up and why she would be more, malleable to kind of a program like this, to kind of, here's some weapons, go kill some kids. And most people would run off screaming, and she's like running towards the kids with a glint in her eye, like, fuck yeah, I'm going to kill some people. So, she really takes to it like a duck to water. And so, but, for the most part, you get a lot of these characters that are set up very well. Maybe a few things, like the actress who played Gogo in Kill Bill, her character, there's not really much of her. And then there's a whole sequence with her character, and it starts with a flashback, I believe. It must be a flashback, right? Because she's wearing the same clothes, but there's a bike, and then there's no guy. Yeah, I think it's a flashback that kind of flows very naturally into the present. So you get kind of the backstory with her, and then this other guy comes in, and that felt a little bit like it didn't quite gel as much in terms of, knowing who. It was like, okay, here's who this person is, and now we're playing out her, and then she dies. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how else you would do it, but otherwise, I'd say for the most part, those relationships were done really well. There was the one guy who was in love with the girl, and he wanted to go and find her and stuff. And I guess the fact that he wanted to go and find her throughout this whole craziness showed you that he was in love with her. But when he does find her and she kills him, and he's like, I just wanted to tell you that I loved you. And she's like, you never said anything. You never said anything. And it's like that kind of teenage angst of like, why didn't you say anything? And I feel that because there was a woman in college that I was just madly in love with for a couple of years there, and and then I reconnected with her a couple of years later, and I found out that she had a thing for me, and I was just like, why didn't you say anything? Like, so I feel that frustration, and that's funny. So you have this over dramatic movie, which is a very overly stylized and everything, and there's bloodshed and stuff, and you don't take it too seriously. And then there's just this girl saying, why didn't you say anything? And I'm like, I felt that. I understood your pain. Maybe not on the level of killing the person, but there's a frustration there. And so, yeah, I really like the actor who plays Shuya Nanahara. Like, I know he feels like a very nice kind of, not even a hero character, but your central protagonist, because he doesn't go in for the violence. And there's a really good scene at the beginning where this guy's coming at him with an axe. They're tumbling around. He doesn't want to fight, and the axe ends up going in the guy's head. Someone sees it and obviously thinks the wrong thing, but he doesn't want to kill anyone. And I don't think he does kill anyone in the movie. And then they meet Kawada, and I love his character. There's a lot of fun to his character. He's talking about, oh, my dad was a doctor. Oh, my dad was a cook. There's a charm to him. There's a charisma. Do you trust him? Do you not? He's done this before, and there's a backstory there. And there's the other guy who's kind of the lone wolf, and they just set it up so well with really memorable characters. It never feels like it's too much. You get the obligatory scene where a bunch of characters who don't have much to them get killed off, but that's just the nature of you can't really give however many. I mean, I think it says on the back of the Blu-ray how many. It's 42 students. You can't really give 42 characters along with Kitano, like all backstories, all relationships that make sense within a 2-hour movie. So There are those scenes where they get kind of unceremoniously killed off very quickly, but there's lots of really good characters, and even that scene at the lighthouse. I mean, that whole sequence, in fact, that whole part of the movie is just brilliant, and that whole the poisoning scene is like a brilliant microcosm of like I think like the failure of humanity. It's like someone who gets scared and does something really bad that they really kind of regret instantly, and someone gets the wrong idea and then everyone's dead. So it's like, it's just like it's what we do. It's what humans have. That's the one thing that humanity is the absolute best at. That is fucking things up and killing each other. And if you look at the core root of it, it's ultimately like fear or greed or just something negative, and it never needed to happen in the first place. And that whole sequence shows you just the carnage that we can unleash on each other when we're too scared or too greedy or whatever. Just how negativity just never ends well. And this young girl was seemed to be just terrified of him coming into the lighthouse and wanted to poison him, and and then it ended up just going all pear-shaped from there. Anyway, so the 4K I think looked great. I think I talked about it a little bit in the previous video, but some of the greens just looked fantastic, and the detail is there, and the grain is there, and I loved revisiting this film in 4K. Some of the score was really good, if I remember correctly. Obviously, you get a lot of the classical music that's piped in and stuff, which is very cool. I like that. It's kind of suitably fitting. I would say that not that I'm any expert on opera at all. In fact, I don't know anything about it in the slightest, but it feels like an operatic kind of story where it is larger than life. It is overly stylized, and it almost feels like it could be a musical. It feels like this story might even work as that, but I love it the way it is. It's a tremendously entertaining film. Again, it's that kind of vicarious thing where you kind of think, what would I do in this situation? And you kind of, rooting for the characters to do one thing, to do the other. Will they get away with this? Will that person kill that person? There's always like something going on in any given scene in the film where there's just a forward momentum of what's happening next, and how is this going to end up, and all of that. And then you have the Kitano character who's called Kitano, which I thought was funny, and his kind of overseeing of the whole thing, and how is he going to tie into the end game of this story, especially given the setup of him having a troubled family life, and how that ties into how he sees his pupils and his students, and how that ties into the grander story. Maybe I would like to have just got some clarification on how that system works, because again, you need to find a class where the teacher is all on board for overseeing them kill each other. Because what if it's a teacher who's a really nice guy and is like, no, I'm not going to do this. They just kill him and bring in generic, MC of the Battle Royale Island. I don't know. But anyway, so there's not really much I can really critique this film on. It doesn't quite get like a 5 out of 5 for me for whatever reason. It just doesn't, I don't know. I mean, there's nothing really, there's not really a huge criticism. But I don't think it would be a film I'd watch once a year, every year kind of favorite. But maybe I should probably watch it again, sooner than 9 years than I did the last time. And hey, the 4K box set has the director's cut in 4K as well. So that'd be something I'll probably check out probably within the next year, just to kind of, while it's still fairly fresh in my mind, to see the new scenes and everything. And I did feel like the relationship not even the relationship, but the connection between Kitano and Noriko, the girl that was with Shuya, could have done with a bit more expanding, and I think there's more of that in the director's cut, which I believe was something where they went back and filmed things for the director's cut, but which I think is why I listed Battle Royale as a 2001 movie in my marathon. That might be the reason. I looked at it, it's not a 2001 film. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So, yeah, I like how he viewed her almost as a daughter figure. Again, that probably could have been set up a little bit better, I think, perhaps. But I like the flashback stuff. I like how that was interwoven. The sequence where they're on the island and Kitano turns up with an umbrella. I felt like that was a dream sequence, and I wasn't sure if it really was. And so, but that's a good thing about having all the extras, to go through, and having a commentary there to listen to maybe get some clarification on those things, the book, so there's so much material in the box set to kind of dive through, and then just to watch other people's reviews. Will I have time for all of that? Probably not, but I can kind of, dip my toes in here and there whenever I see fit. And overall, I'm hugely happy with the way this film looked in 4K. This is the kind of stuff I like to see in the 4K format. It's just like, you know, really good films that were shot on films that are going to really benefit from that extra resolution that you can really get from original film negatives. And yeah, it just looked great. It looked great. I really enjoyed revisiting it. That's pretty much all I've got to say. Battle Royale. It's a classic. It really is. It's such an influential movie, and you know, Quentin Tarantino sings its praises, and obviously he was doing the kind of stylized violence before this film even came out. But when you look at, you know, the Kill Bill movies, and I would even say that from Kill Bill onwards, you know, his his kind of penchant for violence really just exploded. You know, you look at the stuff he did in Kill Bill, incredibly violent and overly stylized. Death Proof, very violent. You know, Inglourious Basterds, incredibly violent. Django Unchained, hugely violent. So he really leaned into that stuff. So it clearly influenced him. He loves the film. But I think that by extension of that, you know, the Tarantino influences influenced so many other people in the 2000s and the 2010s. In the 90s as well, of course, with Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. But you know, there's a trickle-down effect where I think this film is influential on films and obviously now in video game, you know, kind of media. And it's just one of those things that I think, you know, the term Battle Royale, you know, now is synonymous with the idea of getting people on an island or in a setting. Last person standing wins. And you have a game like Fortnite where it's presented in a fun kind of cartoony way. You have a movie like Battle Royale where it's in a very kind of, you know, it's weird because it toes the line between being a gritty, violent film, but also being kind of over the top. You don't take it too seriously, but it kind of, it works both ways. So it's kind of a magic trick that Battle Royale works as well as it does, I think. But it's a film that I love, and I would say that it has now crept into one of my top favorite lists. Maybe my top 100 favorite films, perhaps. If not, then just outside it, I think. I love the film. Anyway, that's about it. I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for my follow-up video where I will be talking about Battle Royale 2 Requiem. How the fuck do I even approach that one? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.